Young Justice. On November 26, 2010 was the series debut on Cartoon Network. It's amazing to me the impact this show has had on comic book television. It was spearheaded by Brandon Vietti, comic drawer, and Greg Weisman, a writer. Despite the minor differences in their paths, they never believed they'd be a team up for one of the best comic book shows on television. As of making this video, the show has experienced 5 seasons. After the second, Invasion, the show would experience a 6-year hiatus, and fans were constantly asking until the show returned. And not everyone was a continuous fan. Still, I enjoyed the show's return, and I'll admit it had its problems. That's a video for later though. Season 1, subtitled Young Justice, follows a group of sidekicks and proteges of the Justice League. Dick Grayson's Robin, Wally West's Kid Flash, Calderon's Aqualad, Connor Kent's Superboy, McGann Miss Martian, and Artemis, who would replace Speedy or Red Arrow. The team is closely related to the original Young Justice superhero team created in 1998 by Todd DeZago and Todd Nowak that debuted in Teen Titans Secret Files #1 and was originally just a trio comprised of Connor Kent's Superboy, Tim Drake's Robin, and Bart Allen's Impulse. The series opens with the proteges fighting alongside their respective mentors. Robin is with Batman, Speedy is with Green Arrow, Aqualad is with Aquaman, and Kid Flash is with The Flash. Now, Robin at this point has been operating with Batman for well over 4 years, and Wally West, after finding out his uncle Barry Allen was The Flash, begged to be his sidekick, even going as far to replicate the accident that gave Barry his powers. I really enjoy that during this opening scene, we see each hero fighting against villains with the same power set. It gives a fair sense of how they use their abilities to take down threats, but it also displays a slight sense of dependability. The young heroes are rightfully excited about being able to join the Justice League. Roy is especially excited about leaving behind the status of sidekick. However, the 4 find out that the membership is limited from a discussion involving the 4 ice villains, and they will not be taking part. This obviously pisses off Roy, yet the other 3 stay in place. He also reveals the Hall of Justice isn't the HQ, but the orbiting space shuttle known as the Watchtower. Now Roy bounces out, and because a host of global issues hit all at once, the League springs into action, leaving the sidekicks behind. The remaining 3 are rightfully disappointed and deciding to look into Project Cadmus, which Superman had mentioned was dealing with the fire. The building is a genetics lab, but the trio find out that below the surface there's a little more than public knowledge. As a matter of fact, it's holding alien life forms known as genomes. Another known hero is working here is the Guardian. And his story, yeah, we'll get to that eventually. For now, he works alongside Cadmus, and we also have Project KR, a Superman clone. This is our introduction to Superboy. He's a younger tank-grown human from the Kryptonian DNA of Superman, and unbeknownst to him, the DNA of Lex Luthor. At the time the trio found him, he was only 16 weeks old. Cadmus, using their genomes, turned the clone against the young heroes, and he manages to defeat them. Cadmus created Superboy to replace Superman in the event of his death. However, he does carry a lot of his courageousness as well as sympathetic traits. This is displayed when Cadmus attempts to take the DNA of the other superheroes to create clones of them. Aqualad reaches out asking, what would Superman do? The 4 combine their efforts managing to escape. The League berates them for their actions, but I like that the 4 of them dig their heels in and refuse to disband and are willing to act against orders if it is for the greater good.
Apologies, my king, but no. We did good work here tonight. The work you trained us to do. Together, on our own, we forged something powerful, important.
This is about your treatment at the hall? The 3 of you.
The 4 of us. And it's not.
But that meant we're ready to use what they told us. Well, why teach us at all?
Why let them tell us what to do? It's simple. Get on board, or get out of the way.
The League does relent and decides to keep the team as covert, although they are everything but covert, and to act in the League is too noticeable. To conclude the episode, we get the 5th member of the team, McGann, also known as Miss Martian, who is also the niece of John Jones, the Martian Manhunter. One of the things I really enjoyed about the initial 3 episodes, we get to see the team on shaky ground. I mean, no team is perfect, but the first few episodes puts each of their faults on display. You see, Robin is real self-sufficient, and with the role defined by working with Batman, he lacks the ability of communication. Kid Flash, while effective in a fight, can also be too immature. Superboy naturally doesn't want to lead the team and will likely be a terrible choice over his unchecked anger. And Miss Martian is still green, figuratively speaking. This leaves Calderon, who definitely displays the proper leadership traits even from episode 1. He's controlled, ambitious, and humane regardless of his Atlantean upbringing. He also understands his teammates' strengths and weaknesses and knows how to use them effectively in a fight. This is apparent in episode 4, Drop Zone. He formulates a great strategy to take down the cult of Cobra, and after the team is cornered by Bane. Soon as the explosives are mentioned, he mentally gives notice to Kid Flash to get a running start so he can snatch that trigger. This will lead the team to deciding that Calder would be the best as the team leader, although he does acknowledge that one day Robin will ascend to take the position when the day comes. I also like little moments that Calderon uses, like in episode 2 when McGann is first meeting the team and she doesn't do well with actually communicating with them. She actually uses her powers to speak to them mentally, and this actually upsets Connor. However, he does snap on McGann and he doesn't really know how to apologize. However, Calder is able to notice this right away and tells him all you have to do is simply say you're sorry. It goes to show just how much Calderon really pays attention to the people he's working with. Eventually, the last member of the team will come along, and this is Artemis, a new team archer and the newest protege to the Green Arrow following Roy's departure. Her character does make a shadowy appearance in episode 5, Schooled. The team initially thinks this is Speedy, however they are able to tell the differences in their arrows. She's introduced in episode 6, Infiltrator. She comes off as Green Arrow's niece, although most of the team, including Red Arrow, are skeptical of her origins. She works well with the team, although she can be very sarcastic and butt heads a lot with Wally. But even as the group is working to stop Dr. Sterling Roquette's fog from destroying and stealing data from Wayne Industries, she battles with Cheshire the assassin, and the two seem to share a mysterious past, which leaves her no choice but to let the assassin get away. But at this point, the team in this season is fully assembled, and although it's a far cry from the original comics, one has to ask, why this team? When researching the background for the story, this is what I found out. NYJT3 asks, my question is, why did you choose the starting roster of heroes as this team's starting roster? Did those starters influence what other heroes would bring to the team's next roster? Greg Wiseman responded, we began with a list of over 50 DC teen superheroes and quickly started to narrow it down to a dozen or fewer. We wanted a mix of characters, some with powers, some with only mad skills. We wanted to respect tradition with some of the original sidekicks and proteges, but we wanted to shake up expectations as well. And we wanted to prioritize diversity and inclusion. Beyond that, one of the main themes of our series was secrets and lies. So, obviously, we wanted some of our leads to be keeping secrets and/or telling lies. This theme does ring true from episode 10, Targets, when Sportsmaster baits Aquaman by telling him his knowledge of Santa Prisca and Bialia, and that he has an inside source, a very inside source. Calder decides to maintain the secret and investigate quietly to not tip off the mole. I actually did agree with Calderon at this point, especially as if he wanted to find out who was the mole, he would need to keep this quiet. However, if he did tip it off, he might not ever find out who is responsible. In episode 12, Homefront, the most suspicion does seem to be on Artemis, as we find out that she's actually the sister of Cheshire. However, after the Reds attack the cave, the heroes manage to gain the upper hand thanks to a Robin Artemis team up. But as Red Tornado disappears with the other Reds, suspicion does take another turn. This does sow some seeds of discord, especially with Calder, as the team feels betrayed and untrusted. In my opinion, this is why Calder is such a compelling character, as during the events of episode 13, Alpha Male, he managed to successfully rally the team despite their inability to trust him after keeping secrets about the mole with a little help from Shazam. I did like the fact that the team did respond like this, because it would make sense that they would feel betrayed, even though Calder did have real good reason to do so. We also get another member of the team, Zatanna, brought to Mount Justice with her father and League member Zataro. He brings her back to the cave with the sole intent of meeting the team. They bring her along to hunt down Red Tornado, although Black Canary considers him an actual League problem. Although she proves herself team worthy, she's not a full-fledged member, returning every few episodes to assist the team. I like how her abilities really came in handy, and I've always really liked how Zatara and Zataro always have to speak backwards in order to use spells. It's actually pretty cool, and you can actually tell there is some flirtation between Zatanna and Robin. One of the unique features about the show is it doesn't shy away from the complications of being a superhero. Not simply the dangers, but the mental and emotional fallout. We get a good understanding of this after the events of episode 16, Failsafe. You see, the team uses Martian Manhunter's telepathic abilities to create a training scenario where the League and the team will continuously lose and how they would adapt to it. However, after the death of Artemis, Miss Martian's subconscious takes over, nearly rendering all those who died, air quotes, into a coma that they couldn't break from. You see, because she believed they died in what is actually a training scenario, she believed they were dead, so they actually would have a hard time waking up in the real world. Afterwards, the team struggles to mentally bounce back, receiving therapy from Black Canary, except each of them, except Wally and Connor, talk about their struggles. You see, Artemis is worried about her secrets being found out and her connection to Wally. You see, even though the two of them have a hard time getting along, and Artemis tends to tease Wally any chance she gets, she actually really likes him, even though she has not been able to admit that to anyone just yet. Wally, however, is in denial, and he seems to mask his feeling towards the training exercises, and even admits this to Black Canary. You see, Wally comes from a family of superheroes, from a different line of Flashes. You see, Jay Garrick, as well as Barry Allen, all reside in his family. You see, Wally has an idea of who he's supposed to be. So I think that he somewhat believes that he cannot allow himself to be affected by this. He believes that he has to fall in line with the idea of what a hero is because he's seen it on multiple occasions, and the idea of weakness to him is a problem. He's also very scientific, so in order to approach a problem, he tries to use logic as opposed to emotion. Calder struggles with the idea as resigning as team commander and when it is right to pass the mantle on to Dick Grayson. It does make sense that Calder would be affected. You see, Calder is a great hero, but one of the biggest issues that Calder has is that he's very selfless, sometimes too selfless. And if I would have to guess, being a leader, you sometimes have to let your team take the responsibility and you have to fall back. You see, with all leaders gone, it makes it hard for the team to follow anyone, and it creates chaos if there isn't really the next person in line chosen to take over. And Calder's ability to go forward to sacrifice himself makes him wonder if he's leadership material. Dick, however, struggles with not wanting to be the Batman, worried about the pulse that drives him to sacrifice everything for the mission. You see, Batman has always been a driven character. You see that his past, and he is defined by it, and has taken the ability to push himself to the very extent to be the hero that the city of Gotham needs, which means he's willing to do whatever it takes to accomplish the mission, even if it means pushing away the people closest to him. This is something that Dick Grayson has always struggled with in the comics. You see, Bruce Wayne and Dick have a really strong father-son bond, and I do believe that Dick worries like any son if he wants to be the same as his father. That makes sense to me. Before he became Batman, Bruce always told him that he would be a better Batman than him. And it goes to show that Dick really wants to, if one day, become Batman, he wants to do it his own way. And he worries if he's going to become the same thing that Bruce Wayne becomes. And I like that. It really shows this somewhat generational curse between the two of them. McGann feels horrible about how powerful she is and how much her friends suffered at her hands, as well as her actual white Martian appearance. You see, at this point in time, McGann is actually not a green Martian. We do see her as that way on the show, but she's actually a white Martian, which is somewhat of a different in race. And because of her time on Mars, she is constantly rejected by the other Martians for her white Martian appearance. This does leave her a little bit self-conscious, and it's something that I really understand, as we have all been kids before, and it's something that we've all worried about, of being accepted by others by our actual true selves. So I really understood what McGann was going through at this point in time. Connor would eventually open up about how he was satisfied being like Superman, as everyone else around him had died. Yet he felt at peace knowing he'd finally be able to seek his potential. I did understand this with Connor, as you have to understand he was actually created to take over for Superman. There's a point in the episode of Failsafe where he actually tries to save a group of soldiers, and even though he says that he's not Superman, they see the insignia on his chest and say, "You wear the symbol, so therefore you're the best thing we've got." And I think in some form or fashion this taps into Connor's mental, where he really believes that as he is now Superman, he feels that he has completed his journey as to who he's supposed to be. You see, at this point in time, him and Superman are not on the same terms. Superman really doesn't want anything to do with Connor in that sense, as he was created the wrong way. And I like that this idea of Superman dying kind of spearheads Superboy into being who he truly wants to be. All in all, it was pretty interesting getting to see this perspective of being a hero and how those struggles have an incredible impact on the heroes themselves. Sometimes we get to see minor pieces of these struggles in movies and some television shows, but it almost seems too minor. In this show, we get a good idea of what happens in the middle of saving the world. This season, we also get an abundance of villains, and I like that the series doesn't contain all of them as one-offs. Leading up from the pilot episode, we see the villains return multiple times and with different motivations. Characters like Bane are also well utilized in the show, where we most see Bane as a crazed monster. Although he uses venom occasionally, he doesn't overly rely on it. Instead, he uses more of his own combat ability and ingenuity, which in my opinion makes him much more dangerous. Sportsmaster has the most run-in with the team and is inherently responsible for Cobra recovering the formula from Project Blockbuster and also taking Bane's venom to create Cobra Venom, which in turn affected the creatures the Brain was using. In the background of the series, we also meet the organization known as the Light. Although initially their identities are kept a secret, we meet a couple of members including Ra's al Ghul and Lex Luthor. We also get to meet the Injustice League, Count Vertigo, the Joker, Poison Ivy, Ultra Humanite, Atomic Skull, Black Adam, and Wotan, who hold the world ransom $10 billion to stop several plant monsters around the world. Despite the both teams being able to stop the Injustice League, they were only proxies to allow the Light to move without notice, and we meet the rest of the team: Vandal Savage, Ocean Master, Ishtar, Kelpin, and the Brain. The Light members work in the background to gain the trust or manipulate the team. This plays heavily into the theme of this season with secrets and lies. This begins with Artemis, since she is the daughter of Sportsmaster and the sister of Cheshire. Worried that the team would not accept her or deem her as the mole, she kept her family ties a secret. Another issue would be with Miss Martian, and her white Martian heritage was discovered by Queen Bee after the team helped save Maria Logan as well as Gar. Queen Bee uses McGann's fear of the team, knowing this to use the Martian for her own ends. Connor would also come to be manipulated by the likes of Lex Luthor, who attempted a connection with the young half-Kryptonian. You see, by this time, Superman would have a difficult time connecting with Connor because he was created by illegitimate means. He comes to terms with Cadmus, but Luthor would try to offering him these shields that would suppress the human part of him and give him full access to abilities like flight and heat vision. All of these suspicions and decisions and actions will come to a head in episode 25, The Usual Suspects. The team successfully defeats an ambush by the Riddler, and all secrets are willingly exposed by the team members. They also get some assistance from the new member of the team, Rocket, brought on by the hero Icon. Also in this episode, we see 5 new members of the League: Icon, the Atom, Dr. Fate, Plastic Man, and Speedy, now known as Red Arrow. The team is incredibly proud and happy for him. However, we find out that Roy, unbeknownst to him, was the mole and has successfully subdued all members of the League for Vandal Savage. As it turns out, Roy had been a mole since the events prior to the pilot episode Independence Day. His programming was activated by Sportsmaster after uttering the words "Broken Arrow." You see, Roy was another clone of Cadmus, much like Superboy, and the real Speedy, Roy Harper, was abducted by Cadmus. The clone had been mentally engineered to become a member of the League, which is why he was so pissed and struck out on his own. The programming urged him to prove himself League worthy until he joined the team. He's freed from the programming after gifting the League to Savage, although he manages to escape. The team battles with several members of the League, managing to create a cure, helping Black Canary. With her, Red Tornado, and the clone Red Arrow, the team manages to cure many members of the League. We also get an awesome fight scene when Witchboy Clarion summons the 6 main League members: Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Martian Manhunter, John Stewart's Green Lantern, and Hawkgirl. Black Canary and the others are beaten. The team members do help and join in and are managed to overpower some of the League members. We also get a pretty good Batman vs. Robin and Superboy vs. Superman fight. The two manage to combine their efforts and manage to defeat them. Despite the victory, there are uncertainties and a host of unknowns, one being the clone Roy, who is upset about the missing Speedy and vows to find him. The second issue is realizing that the 6 League members have been unaccounted for 16 hours. which bring the seasons to a mysterious close. Overall, Young Justice was well received, especially as a sort of a deviation from the Justice League animated series, while also being faithful to the source material that preceded the show. The characters have real responses to traumatic events, and I appreciate how things are not glossed over throughout episodes. This show was something that I really liked, guys. I like how it gave us more of an in-depth of things that superheroes do go through, as well as the impact of what they do on a day-to-day, how they manage their lives, how they manage their relationships, what it means to actually be a leader. The insecurities that I think that many kids would deal with, insecurities that I've had some experiences with in the past, is what helped me really like this show and relate to a lot of the characters. Another thing that I really liked about this show was it wasn't afraid to really deep dive into what it takes to be a hero and what it is that makes them want to stand out from their league counterparts. And another thing that I really liked was that other characters get a lot of chances to shine, especially characters like Dr. Fate and Black Canary. We get a better idea of how Dr. Fate operates and how he needs a host in the world of magic, and how his absence for too long creates an imbalance between the light and the darkness. And I think that that's also pretty awesome that we get this moment where Wally gets to grow a lot from magic, as well as seeing him grow after his mission to save the young princess of Latava from Count Vertigo. It's a pretty awesome getting to see all of the characters grow, facing their own different situations. It's a pretty amazing thing. Characters like Black Canary get to shine in this show as she's the actual trainer of the team. Many don't know she's actually one of the best fighters in the DC universe, being trained by Wildcat as well as Batman. And she's become somewhat of the voice of emotional and mental reason for the team when they're going through situations that they can't understand, especially Superboy. I think it's pretty cool as she kind of guides them to becoming better individuals, not just better superheroes. I like that we also get to learn a lot more about Red Tornado as well as his quote-unquote family from Tio Morrow. I like how he kind of sees himself as having a family, even though he can't always understand the complicated relationships for humans. He really does try to support the team and help them grow. Though he knows that Batman is responsible for the missions, he really does allow the team to do what it is that they have to do and not intervene in the situation unless he absolutely has no choice. And I think it's pretty cool that because he is a robot, he tends to know how to step back and let the team do what they have to do when they have to do it. It's something that I've always really enjoyed about this show. It was really a great show, guys. I really did like the last couple seasons of the show. I know a lot of people didn't. I will admit that they have their problems. I can't wait to tackle season 2. I've actually been watching a couple episodes, getting ready for the review, kind of taking down some notes. I'm excited to get into it, but I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please like the video. Let me know what you guys thought. Who was your favorite character in season 1? What was your favorite moment in season 1? What was something that stuck out with you, which is on one of your favorite episodes? And I will catch you guys in the next one. Later.